And what we're beginning to see, unfortunately, is that some of the countries, particularly Moldova and Romania, where we see reports coming out of that were welcoming Ukrainians at the beginning, they're not as welcoming right now, and Ukrainians are feeling the need to leave those countries. And so some of the Ukrainians that have been displaced, they've been displaced to a country like Moldova, which is the most impoverished country in Europe. They're not feeling like they can settle there, and now they're having to move on to another country.
What has the daily life and needs and the emotions been like for those who are landing here, and some of the things that they might even need or find challenging now that before they wouldn't have thought twice about?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm not up on the exact numbers right now, but we're talking over well over 4 million people have already fled Ukraine, which is an incredible number. We have countries in Europe with less populations than 4 million. And then within the country itself, over 7 million other people have been displaced, which means they've had to move from where they were living in cities such as Kharkiv or Mariupol, and they've moved into cities such as Odessa, Rivne, Kiev, etc., or all the way into the west to Lviv. And so you're looking at a tremendous number of people who've lost their homes, a tremendous number of people who have lost a loved one, or if they haven't lost a loved one, they are fearing the loss of a loved one, because men aged between 18 and 16 have been told they need to stay and they need to support, whether actively as a member of the military or actively supporting the military in some way. And so you have a lot of people who've lost a loved one, they've lost a home, or they have the fear of loss, so they are actively mourning, whether it's something they have lost or something they're about to lose. A lot of people are going through post-traumatic stress disorder right now, and it's early days in that, but we already see the post-traumatic stress disorder matrix, and so we see the guilt, shame, particularly coming through right now, and so we see a number of people who are beginning to struggle. They're moving into countries such as Romania, Hungary, where they don't speak the language typically. So now they've lost everything they have. They've managed to carry some small amount with them. Because many of them have come on foot or by train, so there was a very limited amount they could take with them. Even if they came by car, there was only a limited amount they could take. And so now they're struggling with the loss of everything they knew, the loss of everyone they knew, because they're not surrounded by the people they knew on a daily basis. The loss of work, so there's no income or very little income if it is there. And now they're dealing with, how do I communicate in this language? I don't understand this culture. And what we're beginning to see, unfortunately, is that some of the countries, particularly Moldova and Romania, where we see reports coming out of that were welcoming Ukrainians at the beginning, they're not as welcoming right now, and Ukrainians are feeling the need to leave those countries. And so some of the Ukrainians that have been displaced, they've been displaced to a country like Moldova, which is the most impoverished country in Europe. They're not feeling like they can settle there, and now they're having to move on to another country. And so people are struggling to settle. And so there's a tremendous sense of loss, a tremendous sense of pain, and a question about, when can I return home? Will I be able to return home? And what will I return home to? What will my life look like then? So it's a very, very painful time. And of course, they see the news reports, they see so many videos on social media, and they see the destruction that's happening in the country. And many of them are very, very burdened for their country. I think one of the worrying issues, which it's very understandable from a human point of view, but spiritually it's very unhealthy, is many Ukrainians are truly beginning to hate the Russian people. And so humanly it's understandable because of everything that's happening, all the atrocities that are happening, but spiritually, of course, it's incredibly unhealthy, because this hatred is not going to allow them to move forward in forgiveness in the future, and they're holding on to anger. So it's a really difficult time. You have a people who are so very broken, and many of them becoming very, very bitter. And yet the reality is many Russians are not in favor of this war. Many Russians have been imprisoned. Many Russian soldiers have spoken out against their commanders. But when they do that, they're putting not only their own lives at risk, but the lives of their family members at home. And so it's an incredibly complex and difficult situation.